Even after attempting to save his daughter 99 times, every effort ended in disaster, with her dying each time. It all began when humanity started turning into zombies, causing the collapse of the entire world. One desperate father did everything he could to fight against the undead and protect his beloved daughter, but he was powerless. It didn't take long for both of them to push up daisies. Instead of finally resting in peace, he's summoned by a goddess who grants him 99 lives. Basically, he can die 99 times and come back again and again, just so he can try to survive. He begins his quest to protect his daughter from scratch. And so, this vicious cycle of dying and being sent back in time continues. Each time he regresses, he tries to do better than before, only to end up defeated. Even then, this superdad never loses hope. He stubbornly clings to the only goal he has in mind. Even if it means repeating this hellish loop tens of thousands of times, he'll gladly do it, so long as there's a chance to rescue his daughter from this nightmare. On his second-to-last attempt, he finally reaches a fortified sanctuary where he could have found refuge under military protection. But by the time he finds it, his daughter is already gone. Instead of taking his life and starting over, he accepts this tragic fate and lives out the rest of his days like a normal person. But even after all those years, his longing to save his daughter never leaves him. Eventually, desperate to reunite with her, he takes his own life, redeeming his final chance to save her. As he stands there after returning, fully prepared to move forward, he recalls how he had once reached that shelter, Dijon, but he was never able to make it there with his daughter alive. And it was all because of his past mistakes. This time he's ready. Equipped with every ounce of experience he's gained throughout this brutal journey, he assures himself that he won't repeat those mistakes. He opens the front gate cautiously, determined to finally begin his journey to Dijon. But he's hit with a reality check he never anticipated. Unlike previous attempts, where the area was clear, this time his doorstep is overrun with the undead. The entire street is swarming with zombies, rushing in like it's a Black Friday sale on toilet paper. This unprecedented development leaves him frozen in shock. After all, in 99 tries, he's never once seen something like this. The undead don't even let him finish his inner monologue before they're already on him. His daughter snaps him out of it. He quickly pushes her back into the house and slams the door shut behind him, sacrificing himself just to buy her a little more time. She pleads with him, begging for him to open the door, but this giga-chad of a man is dead set on taking this L alone. Even as his flesh is ripped apart, he clenches his jaw. No way in hell this is enough to shake his will, not when he's come this far. After experiencing death nearly 99 times, getting torn apart once more doesn't faze him. Images flash through his mind, warm memories of the bond he once shared with his daughter when she was just a toddler. Just like he adored her back then, he adores her just as fiercely now. That unbreakable bond reignites his determination. He refuses to die a pathetic death at the hands of these damned monsters. Something inside him awakens. An inhuman strength surges through his body. With one powerful push, he lifts a dozen zombies on his shoulders and flings them like trash bags in every direction. It's as if the couch potato dad just transformed into a super dad, powered by pure love. One unfortunate zombie thinks it's a good idea to challenge him. It learns the hard way. The dad rips through the horde like they're paper. When one zombie bites him, he bites back, with 10 times the force. At the same time, he drills his fist straight through another corpse's chest. And then, leaping into the air, he slams a zombie into the ground like a goddamn meteor. Even the remaining brain-dead ones seem to realize they messed with the wrong dad. Now he's out here aura farming, rocking a body that looks like it was forged in war. A single glare from this devoted father is enough to send the undead retreating in fear. Meanwhile, his daughter has calmed down inside the house. The gate creaks open, and light of hope pours in. The sight on the other side of the door makes her heart skip a beat momentarily. Her father stands before her, alive, powerful, and built like a Greek god, his jacked body radiating strength and aura. A body that could make single moms across the city weak in the knees. Entering day 7 of the outbreak, we shift the perspective to the capital Seoul. In the Mapo district, there is a specific grocery haven called the A-Mart. Why is that information important? Because in the next scene, we come to discover a group of soldiers angrily guarding at the entrance, questioning how 2 survivors managed to come all the way here, especially when the entire district is swarming with zombies. Looming over from the dark, Minsok grows closer, while the egghead soldier becomes so angry that I'm starting to think his head will explode. By the way, just about every single one of them are currently aiming right at our boy, ready to shoot at any moment. The man in charge questions what happened to our guy's face, and he funnily concludes that Minsok must be some kind of celebrity for wearing those cool sunglasses. That's a hilarious conclusion, but it's a favorable one, I guess. Making her debut in the story, a baddie captain steps up and tells both of them to get lost. This woman is dubbed the Black Widow, and I'm guessing after dying in Avengers Endgame, Natasha reincarnated into this story. Anyway, Cha Hyeri is pretty adamant about her stance, and deeply distrusts the two of them, declaring that they won't find any shelter here so they should get moving. She even makes a point by going all up in his damn face just to say fudge off. But to the surprise of her two big personalities, Min-seok starts frowning about his daughter's deteriorating condition. He claims that after traveling aimlessly for an entire week, Dami's asthma condition is becoming concerning. Long story short, he begs her to save his daughter, and thanks to his Oscar-winning acting skills, Bro goes as far as to say that he's fine sacrificing his own life as long as they protect his beloved child. His display of affection for his daughter leaves the captain baffled for one moment, and then pissed off in the next. Even Egghead from earlier thinks it's a stupid stunt coming from Min-seok, especially when their captain is a cold brute who doesn't really give a flying fuck about anyone's emotions. And then we cut to the funniest part of the chapter. Egghead turns his head and his jaw drops after seeing his captain's pathetic face. Girl can barely contain her emotions after hearing the story, and ends up having a change of heart. Hyeri allows the two of them to join the survivors, justifying that they need more manpower. But everyone knows it's not because of that, because deep down she seems like a softie. But let's expertly break down what really went down. You see, this man Min-seok is one hell of a gaslighter, and I really mean that. Bro actually smiles to see the captain's unchanging nature. In his previous encounters with her, he learned that she's a retired soldier, and yet, Hyeri became responsible for gathering a great deal of survivors, and did everything to protect the shelter. On the exterior, she's the most brutal woman one can imagine, so much so that it's best to compare her to a merciless serpent. But actually, her one single weak spot is hearing sob stories of parents sacrificing their lives for their children. That's how he meticulously exploited her in his encounter. But Dami is pretty damn pissed off about his stunt just now, because she didn't like the fact that he was ready to abandon her. Still, she keeps up her facade of being an asthma patient and keeps coughing like a dead rat. Even the soldier is annoyed, but the reality is, only Min-seok knows the truth. He can see that his daughter's mental condition is at an all-time low, even worse than all of his previous runs. It's important to secure her safety firsthand. The part that bugs him the most is the occurrence of two unpredictable variables. Because only in this life has he experienced a shift in the timeline based off of what happened a week ago. Then there's him, who was bitten by zombies and somehow ended up getting superpowers for it. It's almost like he has become foreign to his own body, to the point it wouldn't be far-fetched to call Min-seok a zombie anymore. Let's explore the early stages of survival. You see, the mart promises plenty of supplies and resources for them to enjoy. Not just that, the place is heavily guarded too, ensuring proper protection. Strangely, he discovers a collapsed building just next to it, because he'd never seen something like that happen before. The soldier is surprised by his admission, and even calls him out for acting like he's seen the future or something. Anyway, he talks about the incident that took root 3 days ago. A bunch of zombies began attacking them out of nowhere, and the captain, being selfless as she is, lured them all away by herself inside that same building. With the place filled with bloodthirsty zombies to the brim, this woman annihilated the building using explosives they had set up in advance. The whole building collapsed, and in its obliteration, the zombies were crushed. With the way things are right now, they can be compared to rubble and dust, because they're definitely not getting up after that. And even if some survived, they can't escape the collapsed building. Suddenly, the soldier looks at Min-seok, who appears to have a frightened look on his face. At first, Egghead begins to laugh, mocking him for acting like some zombies are going to come out of nowhere. But that's the irony, because right as he says those words, a goddamn colossal zombie creeps up from behind. The fat father of all crazies towers over the tiny soldier, rearing its terrifying, mutated appearance. The same Egghead is reduced to a puddle without words, and well, bro fucked around a bit too much and is about to find out. The colossal beast raises its arm before unleashing its titanic punch, decimating the human with a single attack. But that's not all. This same zombie makes its way to Captain Hyeri and nearly gets her too. Thanks to her incredible evasive abilities, the baddie is able to dodge just in time, while her men are shocked at the sight of zombies and wonder where they even came from. Readying her units at once, she commands them to open fire at the ugly bastard. The soldiers unleash a wave of gunfire, but big old Steve over here literally eats all of their bullets and aurifarms at the same time. The monstrous creature releases a deafening roar before lunging itself upon the soldiers. The massacre begins with a single uppercut taking out 3 of Hyeri's men. One poor guy is left defenseless, frightened for life, and for some reason, the zombie decides to use both his arms just to smash him to pieces. Fortunately, the selfless captain uses her backpack as the perfect distraction and manages to rescue him away from danger. She reminds the clown to maintain his composure if he wants to live. The baddie captain is lost in her thoughts and tries to regain her composure, realizing that they're no longer facing an ordinary zombie. Her first cause for concern is the mart, and recalling that it's a safe haven, she leads the survivors towards it. Of course, as they're bolting ahead, Min-seok tries to talk his way through, only for Hyeri to tell him to shut his ass up and keep moving those legs. The problem is, Dami is facing trouble keeping up, activating our boy's fatherly instincts. The Gucci version of Nanami makes a turn to face the ugly pile of zombie meat, and pouring his everything into a punch, He rages to fight the beast using only his hands. Let's switch to the perspective of Hieri, who intends to lure the monstrous zombie to a special barricade they built right outside the mart. The barricade is so sturdy and thick that there's absolutely no way for anything to take it apart, even if it's a colossal zombie. With this, Hieri will be able to delay their doom until they can focus on exploiting its weak spot. But then, a horrific realization looms over her when she spots the survivors waiting on the first floor. I'm gonna take a pause and admire that gyat, because clearly Hieri's perfect in every way. Anyway, the severity of the situation has just become so much worse with the rest of the survivors waiting here. This causes for a change of plans, as the captain makes an immediate halt, cursing at the situation. She's not gonna let the monster hurt these people, so she intends to distract it all on her own. Now that's how you write a badass female character. But when Hieri turns to look at Dami, she's astonished that her father's nowhere to be found. The captain gets infuriated because she did all of that effort just for Dami's dad to abandon his own daughter. The girl points the captain to a different direction, implying that Minseok's over there. Surprised but still caked out, the captain gazes at the scene in sheer astonishment. You see, she's actually seeing our boy bash the ever-living daylights out of the zombie's head, crushing it and smashing it until its head is all battered. Minseok finally ends the zombie's life with one final attack, leaving even the battle-hardened soldiers at a loss for words. The scene is so gruesome that the survivors can't bear to look at it. Having ended the zombie's life, our boy casually regains his breath, acting like he didn't just take down a behemoth with his bare hands just now. Facing him with suspicion and shock is Captain Hieri, who can't even bear to make sense of what happened. Minseok doesn't care about anyone. The first thing he does is apologize to his beloved daughter for breaking his promise and exposing himself like this. He openly confesses that he cares more about his daughter's safety even more than his own secret, which is why he took action. But the situation has become complicated now that Hieri is extremely wary of this man, so much so that she points a gun straight at him, questioning his real identity. Looking ripped out like a damn gigachad, Minseok officially introduces himself and begins to take off his glasses. The fact that he's going this far causes his beloved daughter great worry, because she fears that if he reveals his true identity, the soldiers will kill him. The scene comes to a chilling conclusion when Minseok names himself a zombie, before adding the word expert ahead of it. His words cause the atmosphere to go dead silent, causing both Hieri and his daughter to be confused because what the hell is a zombie expert? Activating his Gaslighter Pro Max skills, Minseok explains that ever since the outbreak of the apocalypse, he's been going around analyzing the weaknesses of each zombie and what makes them vulnerable. That's how he was able to kill the beefy dude earlier, and that he's actually thrilled to help them all. At first, Hieri looks at him with a smile, pleasantly laughing at his excuse. But then she goes batshit crazy and puts a knife to his throat, showing that she doesn't buy his fuck-ass story one bit. When Dami tries to intervene, she tells her to shut up, because the fact of the matter is clear. This man, being the ordinary human that he is, was able to smash a creature to bits with his bare hands, the same zombie that appeared invincible in the face of bullets. But even more suspicious are his dark red eyes, no different than the zombies. Going all up in his face, she demands to know if Minseok is even human at this point. And damn, the girl is a few inches away from practically kissing him at this point. Zombie Papa denies her words, stating that the bullets from earlier actually did achieve a considerable amount of damage. The captain is confused, so he further adds that the zombie was already pretty damn weak from the bullets alone. All he had to do was finish the fight by dealing the final blow. This class of zombies is called the Eater class, and they're formed when multiple zombies fuse together. Man, these zombies are taking inspiration from the fusion dance of Dragon Ball Z. Thanks to their fused bodies, they gain another level of impenetrable durability. However, durable as this zombie can be, there is one glaring weakness. That weakness is targeting its neck. As he shares this explanation, Minseok internalizes that technically he's not stating any lies, even though it's true that any ordinary punches wouldn't have been able to kill the monster. Hieri objects to his eyes, to which he casually tells her that he shares a genetic condition, causing his eyes to be lacking in melanin. It's actually the main reason he covers his eyes in the first place, because he knows that other people look at him weirdly, just like the captain is doing right now. With both of her concerns clarified, Minseok takes control of the conversation and questions if the captain still believes he's a zombie. The captain draws a concerned and skeptical look on her face. Despite his words, she can't help but shake off the feeling that something about this man just doesn't add up. But even then, the one convincing factor about him is that if he was a zombie, he would have lost his mind and wouldn't ever bother protecting his daughter. Thanks to that, Hieri ends up persuaded and turns away, allowing both of them to take shelter inside the mall. With her Jupiters turned to our screen, Captain Guyot does leave a reminder to Minseok that she's going to be keeping a close eye on this so-called expert. Ultimately, Hieri takes a second to process the loss of her men, feeling extremely guilty over the scene. Right away, two of her soldiers quickly come up to check on her state. The captain wastes no time and bashes one of the guy's knees, making him drop to the ground in agony. The reason she's doing this is to punish the idiots for not following her orders. Because of their disobedience to evacuate the civilians to the underground level, they nearly jeopardized the safety of all the survivors. Hyeri learns that these clowns ended up panicking and forgot about her orders, but she's even more pissed because their mistake could have cost the lives of everyone in the mall. Giving them a terrifying glare, she strongly expresses that she's going to be the one killing them next time if they make another blunder. Saying so, she walks away in frustration. But apparently the guy she kicked appears to have some kind of resentment towards her, implying that something's going to happen in the future. Anyway, let's go back to the mart. On the inside, the survivors are resting, including Minseok and his daughter. Dami is genuinely glad that his secret didn't come out, because she was terrified when he started talking. She also can't believe that her papa over here can lie while acting naturally. Minseok expresses that Hyeri isn't the type of person who was going to be convinced easily, so he had to give it his all. The way he talks about her makes Dami wonder if they know each other. Her words cause a memory flooding down in our boy's mind. In reality, in most of the regressions he experienced, he formed a really good relationship with the captain, which is why he knows her so well. Of course, he doesn't let his daughter know about any of this. Interestingly, Dami is surprised her father knows about the term bluff, because it's a term only the kids know apparently. Zombie Papa smiles at her and reveals that she's the one who taught him all of that. In fact, thanks to the 100 lifetimes they shared, he was able to learn a lot from her. Dami is really impressed, even though she doesn't remember any of it, while her father decides to go off and fetch her a good meal. The girl is genuinely confused and tries her best to remember, but seeing her confused and cute state only makes Minseok happier. You see, when he actually got his new powers, his daughter wanted him to make a promise. She wanted him to keep his secret to his dying grave, because if they came to know more about him, they'll hurt him out of fear. That's how they came to protect his secret, and in reality, his daughter is actually right. Minseok navigates the mart and internalizes his thoughts, knowing that if his identity slipped up here, the rest of the survivors will be tossed into a state of panic. A little while later, he eventually returns to his daughter with some food, but by the time he's back, she's already sleeping like a log from exhaustion. Minseok covers her up in a blanket to make sure she's resting nice and cozy, and then turns his attention to the critical problem. The zombies are even faster than before, and not just that, hundreds of them swarmed his door at the beginning. More mutations are on the rise, and it's only been a week of outbreak. At a speed this rapid, things are going bad. In fact, none of it was like in any of his previous lives, forcing the situation to create even more variables than before. The big question still lingers in his mind. Just why are the zombies changing so fast? To answer this, he has a best guess. It's actually because of his own influence. The scene cuts to the cityscape, and just outside of it, hundreds of mutated zombies are drawing closer and closer. With every step they take, Minseok senses them and feels their arrival. It's as if the entire horde is out to hunt him and his daughter, to put an end to the one man that could stop them. Though he's uncertain if these zombies fear him, or whether they're disturbed by his existence, the only undeniable fact is that these bloodthirsty bastards view him as a variable from their side too. He's the only man capable of stopping him. So what does our boy do? He goes right outside the city, meeting them before they could even invade. Standing all on his own in the middle of nowhere, he welcomes the gathered horde for making his job a hell of a lot easier. Minseok has arrived with a ladder in hand, because of course my man has to style for extra points. As the horde of terrifying zombies stare him down, he welcomes them to start the show. But first off, Bro breaks the ladder in two, arming himself with the ultimate weapon of destruction, stronger than any gun. Minseok hopes to end this fight before his daughter wakes up, because he's gonna go and have to cook her a nice meal. The confidence this man is radiating is through the roof. So as you can expect, the ugly fuckers march ahead to attack him. Dozens of them at once are mounting on top of each other, just to get a chance to tear the human before them. In response, Ladderman ravages ahead, slicing and nailing the zombies with a speed so insane that they don't even have the time to react. He's not just dealing with regular zombies, mind you, but mutations too. Bro is bashing their skulls in, kicking them down and punching so hard that it only takes one damn hit to annihilate an Eater-class zombie for him. With that thing pulverized, he turns to the dozen other mutations, who unleash some kind of explosive to take him out. Yup, these zombies out here attempting Kai blasts too now. But not to worry, because the Ladderman jumps all the way to the top and descends with a shockwave, destroying all of them at once. He also whips out his trusty axes to slice and dice them with even faster speeds. Seconds turn into minutes as he goes on to unleash his fury. A six-armed ugly-faced zombie tries to stop him, only to get his face stomped in the face Gojo Satoru style. Bro chops off its head with maximum aura, all the while his daughter is fast asleep. In the next scene, Dami ends up waking up, stretching her body as she meets the sight of her beloved father. Yes, the same guy who probably annihilated 100 zombies earlier is back before she even woke up. And not just that, man's got a meal ready too. A nice breakfast with a heart for Dami, knowing that she must feel hungry after everything that happened. She's pretty happy and smiles at him before digging in. In the next scene, the perspective shifts to the captain's office. Her men have come to inform her about the enormous sounds they heard past midnight. Shockingly, when they arrived at the scene, what they discovered completely left them speechless. All of the zombies had been massacred and wiped clean. Hieri slams the table, questioning how the hell something like that could even happen, or if the zombies began tearing each other apart. The soldier explains that though he couldn't believe the situation, it's what he saw with his own eyes. In the span of 4 hours, all of the zombies in the vicinity were demolished. Then suddenly an idea sparks her mind. Hieri suggests her men gather the survivors, because they've finally secured themselves the golden chance to escape the mart. Shifting to the perspective of the survivors, they peer their eyes to the shock of a beautiful and quiet day. Though there's blood on the streets, it's shocking that not a single zombie has been spotted nearby. The people begin to celebrate, even wondering where the zombies went. One of them even mentions how there's no sound of their grunting and roaring. All signs point to one possibility, that miraculously, all of the zombies have exited the area. It's a cause for celebration for these folks, who after living a life of terror ever since the apocalypse broke out, finally get a chance to experience a sense of safety and relief. Even Dami is confused and mentions to her father that maybe the zombies really did disappear in the end. Little does this girl know, her papa decided to run a city-wide fade check on the fuckers only last night. He slaps a helmet on top of her head and addresses her with caution. Minseok has only one instruction for his daughter, that no matter what happens, she will make sure she doesn't take off the helmet. His words imply a hint of something terrible happening in the future, making his daughter question what he means. Their conversation is interrupted by Captain Hieri and her men arriving at the mall with a megaphone in hand. She raises it before using it for an immediate announcement, addressing the mysterious deaths of the zombies of the entire area. With her practically confirming the zombies being thoroughly wiped out, the people only cheer in celebration and joy, expressing relief at their safety. But these guys are about to experience a real betrayal, because right after sharing that news, Hieri goes on to tell them that they'll all be exiting the area right away. Her words are shocking and extremely baffling for the survivors who finally had a chance to have a break. They express their clear objections to leaving, sharing that there isn't any need to evacuate with the zombies gone. To that, Hieri decides to share a new piece of information with them. Only 3 days ago, they lost radio communication with another unit called the 2nd Mechanized Infantry Brigade. This wasn't your average brigade because it managed to survive all of the atrocities in the Gyeonggi region. What's even more impressive is that they've got proper armored vehicles and a powerful force, allowing them to easily guard and protect any surviving civilians. Though her words are supposed to be optimistic, her announcement throws everyone in a sudden panic. The survivors just can't accept throwing their lives away based on a single radio call that they can't even confirm anymore. They've all got their own complaints, while Hieri assures them with conviction that she knows someone from the other side. Codenamed the Blue Hawk, there's a competent soldier leading the brigade. I have to pause and admire that sculpted back. It's like Bro's back has its own back. Anyway, the problem is, even though Hieri knows this guy and trusts him completely, the same can't be said for the dozens of survivors who don't know any better. They just can't accept throwing themselves in immediate danger based off of a radio transmission. The crowd is getting out of control, and Hieri is losing it too. She tries her best to explain that they won't be able to survive another raid if the zombies show up again. But the citizens are falsely comforted by their present and think that staying in one place is the best option as the zombies won't return. One guy from the survivor group gets pissed off and roars his complaint. Bro thinks that Hieri is making a hasty decision based on her feelings because she's a woman. I imagine this guy must be taking lessons from Andrew Tate because what kind of logic is even that? This simple and retarded approach actually lures the rest of the crowd to pin the blame entirely on Hieri. Finally breaking his silence, the zombie expert GigaChad steps in to silence everyone with a bone-chilling reminder. The zombies are gonna return, whether they like it or not. The same dumb dude who called Hieri an ineffective leader just now tries to take issue with our boy too, but Daddy Minseok over here simply takes one look at him and reminds the room temperature IQ clown that by staying here, they're gonna be serving the new horde of zombies a fresh meal. By the way, Minseok scares the ever-living crap out of the guy with his fearsome visualization of what will actually go down. He calls out the guy's bullshit and leaves him frightened in shock, so much so that even the guy's own daughter is wondering what scared him. Back to Papa Minseok, he makes it clear that there's no guarantee whether they'll survive the transition phase to group up with the brigade. However, his words only inspire fear and uncertainty in the survivors, who don't want to bank their chances on something that doesn't guarantee their safety. To play them at their own little game, Minseok stands against the crowd and decides to ask them a little question. What happens if these guys stopped receiving any help from the soldiers and didn't listen to sensible orders? His reasonable question puts the crowd in a state of contemplation as they begin to bicker against each other. All of a sudden, certain supporters from the crowd actually start believing in Hieri's approach, realizing that they got zero shot of surviving the apocalypse with the help of the soldiers. Clark Kent over here with the glasses even declares that the only reason they survived thus far is thanks to the help of Hieri's group. That one simple question ends up regaining their faith, as they cheer and chant to trust the decisions of their leaders to survive the apocalypse. Though she achieved her goal, Hyeri is left stupefied from what happened. Just now, she was losing her temper against the crowd's objections. And yet, this so-called zombie expert came in with a single question and convinced everyone to follow her. At this point, her head is filled with the idea of finding more about this handsome blonde who keeps on doing miraculous shit. Hilariously, Minseok tells her he doesn't want any credit, even though Hyeri didn't even thank him yet, implying that he can read her like a book. The thing about our boy is that Papa Minseok over here has had about 100 lifetime experiences of being put in dangerous situations, where negotiating was the only way out for their survival. That's how he knows how to defuse and handle them now. At the same time, he assures Hyeri that he's just doing this for his daughter's protection. Extending his hand, the zombie expert encourages Hyeri that he trusts her completely, and knows that she's going to lead them all to success. The woman is astonished by his ridiculous belief in her, but she chooses to focus on what's more important by announcing the start of the escape operation. Declaring herself as Captain Cha Hyeri and their leader, she promises to leave no one behind during this mission. So in the next scene, thanks to the support of buses and other support vehicles, they're able to navigate through the bloodbath on the roads. We get a shot of Dami, who appears to be annoyed, and I'm guessing it's either because of that goofy helmet or that she didn't get to sit next to her father. Leading the operation at the forefront is Hyeri, who steers clear of any danger in their path. At long last, they manage to cross the Han River, which is something that can be considered a monumental achievement ever since the apocalypse broke out. Hyeri doesn't break composure and tells her men to focus up, because they've got other issues to worry about. Speaking of issues, the soldiers unfortunately spot a bunch of grueling zombies in the distance. These ugly bastards are practically mounting on top of each other just to get near them. The captain immediately commences the start of their operation the moment she sees the zombies, and instructs the civilians in Team C to stick to the right lane, while she and her men will aim for the left. Since we've already come this far, let's talk about one specific trait of zombies. Their hearing is heightened much more than their sight. How can one use this to their advantage, you might be wondering? Well, Hyeri beautifully demonstrates this by shoving boxes of metal cans, striking the zombies' faces, and creating a bundle of noise. This chain effect of sound causes severe sensory issues for the zombies, causing them to scream and get more aggressive. The point isn't to distract them, but to make them engage and tail their vehicle. Hyeri signals her men to speed up, making sure they're at a safe distance even if the zombies run much faster. The only problem? There's practically an army of zombie marathon runners trying to become the next David Goggins. They're going so fast that it's becoming a concern to keep their distance from them. The captain knows what to do with the gigantic horde, and orders her men to head towards the Seongsan Bridge. The bridge has actually collapsed, and now it's time for us to explore the second most notable trait of zombies. No matter the severity of the situation, their one and only objective is to chase after humans. The intelligent captain exploits this trait by instructing her men to pull a 180 on the vehicle, allowing for a sharp cut just before reaching the edge of the bridge. Meanwhile, the zombies who are charging like hell end up finding it incredibly difficult to break their extremely fast momentum. This results in the entire horde crashing against each other, all the while allowing Hyeri's truck to readjust and take out any zombies nearby. The horde is still far from being wiped out, because a lot of the zombies are still lingering around. This leads us to explore the third trait of these bloodthirsty freak shows. Their weakest part of the body is their back. Basically, the goal is to hit them in the ass, which is what happens when Minseok comes out with a goddamn road roller, grinding their bones to dust. Famously dubbed as the king of the construction vehicles, the road roller makes for an excellent grinding machine to make a flat pizza out of the zombies. To be honest, the way this man is out here glazing this machine almost makes me want to see a road roller or a farming edit. Can't say the same for these zombies though, who are out here getting demolished with our boy grinding them down. Some of them are even stupid enough to approach the giant machine in question, only to get annihilated because of their own mistake. Witnessing the massacre of the zombies leaves Hyeri and her men speechless. Thanks to its massive size, Minseok is able to use the machine to drive all of the zombies at the edge of the bridge, and even throws them right down into the ocean. The scene quickly shifts to the perspective of Dami and the other civilians. As I said, she appears to be bothered about something that happened before they left. We actually get a flashback sequence of their conversation, where she was strongly opposing her father's decision to take on the risky job of helping the soldiers. The one thing she feared most was Minseok's secret accidentally getting revealed in front of the soldiers. Luckily for her though, at present, he appears to have returned in one piece. And yes, the One Piece is real. Funnily enough, back then, he told her he'd be playing a simple role of assisting Hyeri's team. But now that he's back on a damn road roller with the scattered remains of zombies, the girl is at a loss for words. Captain Hyeri jumps out and orders everyone to get behind her because she's spotted a bunch of raging zombies coming right this way. Unfortunately for them, the road roller cruises ahead, obliterating every zombie in sight and clearing an easy path for the civilians to navigate. The survivors successfully make their way out of the threatening area, At last, after a long journey of battling zombies, they've stepped into the protected base of the 2nd Brigade. Let's talk more about the brigade itself. This unit is known for always outlasting for a long time in almost every regression Minseok experienced. It is actually considered an important checkpoint in his overall mission before reaching the safe haven of Daejeon. Now, the fact that they were able to step foot in this place in just the span of 8 days is commendable beyond comparison. Still, his worried dad instincts are starting to kick in, knowing that if he allows himself to become arrogant because of his strength and progress, the same will happen again. Dami is going to be devoured and he will be helpless to do anything about it. Even in this life, he's going to use the same exact roadmap he used in all of his previous lives to prevent as little change as possible. In Minseok's eyes, this is where the real fight begins. But for now, he's getting praised all around, thanks to his collective efforts to save everyone's lives. Even though the soldiers discovered the road roller on their own, none of them knew how to operate the heavy-duty machine. The fact that the zombie expert appears to have some knowledge of it makes them wonder if he's got a background as a construction worker. Minseok denies such claims, and actually reveals that he managed to learn it so that he could help survive better. In a nutshell, they're here without any casualties, which the captain is grateful for. Hilariously, she actually thanks him, but our boy doesn't let it go. He teases her and tries to get another show of gratitude from her, only to get a snappy "shut up" in his face. Their moment is interrupted by the welcoming Sergeant Lee In-hui of the 2nd Infantry Brigade, who salutes the captain with great respect, having anticipated her arrival. Hyeri is rather stunned that these people know about her, something that the sergeant confirms that they heard from Colonel Cha that Hyeri would be arriving soon. At first, Hyeri is stunned, but hilariously the sergeant also shares that the colonel specifically told them to look out for a stubborn female officer, which is something that makes all her men laugh. Ticked off, she looks at them with the glare of death, and demands to know Colonel Cha's location. She's told that he's at the rear gate, as apparently some zombies have arrived out of nowhere. Now this is a shocking realization for the captain, and she's terrified to hear that the colonel went with his own squad to handle the threat. The sergeant calms her down, assuring that nothing of the sort happened, but for some reason, he lets out a nervous smile and averts his eyes, implying that there's more to the story. You see, the badass colonel didn't go with his troops. In fact, he went all on his own, because that's how much of a goddamn badass he is. Let's cut to his side of things. At the rear gate of the brigade, the soldiers are observing the scene from the watchtower, counting down on a new record for the colonel's accomplishment. They sing praises of him clearing the zombies within 35 minutes. Apparently, this guy loves using melee weapons over guns, believing that an axe is a zombie's ultimate kryptonite. Bro makes it harder for himself just to have more of a kick out of it, and enjoys looking at their ugly heads after cutting them off. Meet the Blue Hawk, who is decorated with past achievements, and is currently the commander of the 2nd Infantry Brigade. The soldiers are terrified of his reckless ways and recommend that he use a gun next time, because even though know that if this guy turns into a zombie, the world is going to come to an end. Cha Peng-ho laughs with great joy, unable to imagine a day where he gets bitten by a bunch of dumbass zombies. He even boasts that he's on a different level, so basically they're slow as fudge to this man. Peng-ho is in a class of his own and has ultimately understood their fighting style. Bro even disses his own men, calling them dead weight, which is why he doesn't allow them to join him in a fight. Though the soldiers are offended, they know he's speaking facts. Having cleared the entire group all on his own, the Blue Hawk starts to feel the pain in his joints, unfortunately a consequence of his age. Still, he's bored as hell killing zombies every day, without anyone stepping up to prove him a challenge. Well, I guess his wish is granted because one of the Eater-class zombies actually gets back up again, showing that it's still not down for the count. Peng-ho is astonished to see the creature smiling at him. The vicious zombie lunges at him like a sleep paralysis demon, but before the zombie can do anything, our boy steps over it with his road roller, making tomato paste out of it. The soldiers are at a loss for words, while the colonel is instantly put on guard. Remember his words from earlier, about how he's on a different level and can sense the strength of a zombie? Well, here's the thing. With every step our boy takes, Colonel Cha Peng-ho sees the literal incarnation of death looming over Minseok's body. It's as if he's just uncovered the strongest zombie to date. But to confuse him even more, Minseok introduces himself casually, appearing no different than a human as he mentions his travels with Captain Hyeri. The guy just wants to help out, but the Blue Hawk senses so much terror coming from him that he literally proceeds to assault Minseok at full force. And I'm not even joking. This man looks like he put everything into that axe swing. As his attack is about to connect, the soldiers find themselves frightened to see their colonel attacking innocent civilians like he's gone mad or something. But to their astonishment, the ordinary human, Minseok, has caught the axe with one hand, something considered practically impossible to do at that speed. Minseok's mere presence terrifies the colonel to the point he issues a command to raise an immediate red alert, declaring that the man standing in front of him is not a human, but a monster. Of course, even our boy understands that he can't fool this guy like all the others. So he starts off by name-dropping the colonel's identity, before punching the same axe with so much strength that it breaks apart to pieces. Min-seok insists that he's interested in staying here, so the first thing he's going to do is convince this man that he's clean. At the same time, knowing how the colonel handles things, the zombie expert understands that his words won't be enough. So this time, he'll play the game that Pung Ho loves most. The colonel shows a hint of joy in his smile as the man before him locks up his stance for a fight. The colonel interprets his fighting stance as an invitation to fight. Of course, without even thinking of another thought, the man undoes his straps for a brawl. The Blue Hawk has seen all kinds of crazy fools in his life, but he had no idea that someone like Min-seok would already know of his interest in a fight. The colonel focuses his full attention on our protagonist and launches himself like a nuke descending from the sky, desperately hoping to unravel the mystery of someone like Min-seok. The scene cuts to the soldiers executing the colonel's orders, issuing code red as an alarming warning to its inhabitants. Shocked, Hyeri questions what the hell is going on, but the soldiers aren't ready to say anything yet. They just want to follow orders for now. Suddenly, Captain Guak comes out of the blue, and before Hyeri can even ask him any questions, the man has the audacity to put up a gun in her face, pissing her off. Captain Guak is on high alert because he knows that the monster that attacked their leader just now seems to have some sort of connection with Hyeri after revealing her name. This basically implies that she is also a threat. The word monster baffles her until the soldiers expose Ryu Min-seok's full name according to his own words. Yet again, no one knows about the man's identity, not aside from the outsiders who came to the base. The most worried of all is actually Min-seok's beloved daughter, who seems to fear for her father's sake. Going back to the scene of the battle, this man is out here embracing the power of Saitama. Just a single punch is able to annihilate an entire wall, frightening the colonel as he dodges the attack. The shattered wall is more than enough proof that this man has powers beyond that of a human. In fact, the Blue Hawk thinks that it's almost hilarious that our boy is still holding on to his identity as a human. The colonel's kick is blocked by Min-seok's superhuman reflexes, and not just that. 1 second he's there, blocking the kick, and the very next second, he vanishes into thin air and even has enough time to go all the way around the colonel. Min-seok is ready to destroy this man. But no joke, the Blue Hawk is still crazy fast because he's able to dodge the punch, even after being caught off guard. In that same instance, the colonel retaliates with a powerful jab to Min-seok's face, hitting him clean and dealing some damage. It's crazy to think that he's facing a superhuman zombie and still holding his ground. What a badass. With both of them catching their breath, the colonel grabs Min-seok's collar, accusing him of fucking around and holding back a ton of his strength. That's actually the main reason why he was able to dodge the earlier punch without getting annihilated too. To that, Min-seok confirms his thoughts, agreeing that he is indeed holding back a ton of his strength, because if he truly did go all out, it would result in the colonel's death, and he doesn't want that. The thing is, this isn't just an empty threat that a scrawny kid throws off after a fight with you in the streets. This is coming from a guy who is able to punch literal walls and shatter them. It's not easy for the colonel to accept, but it's true. From the moment they started fighting to until now, every single fiber of his body screamed that there was a towering gap between the two of them. Confused and lost, the colonel scavenges for an explanation, questioning his motives. To put it simply, our boy reveals that he's come here for the simple act of demanding protection. His words are so hilarious that the colonel bursts into a loud laugh, right in his damn face. His reaction is justified, because he just faced the strongest dude on the planet, and this same guy is now asking for protection. Anyone would laugh at that. But then, Min-seok reveals his true cause for concern. He isn't worried about himself, but rather his beloved daughter, Ryu Dami, who is currently surrounded by the soldiers alongside Hyeri. Despite having overwhelming strength, the gentle father only asks for the protection of his daughter, for a chance to stay under the brigade's shelter. His words aren't enough, and he knows that, so Min-seok even gets on his knees. Now that's true love. He doesn't even care about his own ego. He just submitted knowing that it will ensure his daughter's survival. And for that, Min-seok agrees to do anything the colonel asks of him, as long as he can guarantee his side of the deal. That night, the scene shifts to the civilian shelter of the brigade. This facility is home to the casual survivors, but there's a shift in their attitude. Upon hearing the word monster connected to Ryu Min-seok, the civilians are drenched in a sense of terror. They start becoming suspicious of our boy's intentions, and even point out the irregularities in his strength and eye color. As a consequence, everyone is starting to think that he's a zombie. Speaking of our boy, despite everything he did for the colonel that evening, he is still chained up and detained for the time being. He recalls the Blue Hawk's words, who promised to uphold his end of the deal, allowing everyone to stay at the brigade. But his main concern arose when it came to Min-seok himself, especially when a guy like him is incredibly dangerous if left all alone. To that, it was actually Min-seok's personal suggestion to isolate and detain him for as long as it takes, so he can assure and establish trust with the brigade and its people, to show them that he's not a threat. Though he is alone right now, his daughter Dami loves him so much that she came to sneak up on him. She cheers him on from the other side, and that's the happiest feeling for the father, to see his child alive and well. Dami is happy to reveal that right after the emergency warning was lifted, the soldiers genuinely took great care of them, so much so that they allowed her to visit her father. Also, she really didn't like the congested setting of the shelter. Even after enduring so much pain for his daughter's sake, Min-seok apologizes for being unable to keep his promise. She's surprised, but he feels guilty for having betrayed her a second time. At this point, he's starting to think that she really feels disappointed in him for being unable to keep his word. To his surprise, she bangs the window and reminds him of his invaluable contributions. If Zombie Papa over here didn't do what he did, then none of the people would have enjoyed the shelter of the brigade. Instead of feeling guilty about it, she gives him a happy smile and lets him enjoy the feeling of having done it all, even if others disapprove of him. Honestly, I feel really bad for the guy. He tries so hard and the people still judge him for it. But for Dami, she reminds her father one last time that she places complete trust in him. The sweet moment concludes with Dami realizing she's got to run back because of an upcoming roll call. Bidding her father farewell, the girl blazes off, leaving Min-seok satisfied to see her, even in his detained position. But here's the reality. Every step that Dami takes, her emotions engulf and overwhelm her. At a certain point, she begins to weep, which implies that she really did her best to keep a happy face in front of her father. As for Min-seok, he is the exact same. Though they melt at each other's embrace, the reality is, they both feel really bad for being away from each other. A light of hope shines as a certain someone visits Min-seok's cell. It's the sergeant, and he's come to collect him for a meeting with the colonel. In the next scene, the Blue Hawk points to a particular location on the map. It's a station where they suspect multiple survivors to be alive. They actually revealed a signal a few minutes ago, confirming their suspicions. However, among the signals they received, there also appears to be a strange frequency, one that they've yet to identify the cause of. Speed is considered imperative for this operation, and that means their numbers must be efficient to tactically handle everything. This is the reason the colonel has gathered an elite squad, and that squad comprises only 2 people. One is the man himself, the colonel, and the second is our boy Min-seok. Something tells me they're about to run the meanest fade check on these zombies with their 2-man squad. Anyway, the colonel wants to use this opportunity to test Min-seok's resolve and his love for his daughter, so that he can finally see if the father is willing to do everything for her sake. Just after hearing those words, our boy breaks open the chains like he's some goddamn superhero. It's a way of implying that he could always break out of confinement, but didn't for his daughter's sake. Min-seok asks when they're leaving, only for the colonel to smile in amusement. The Blue Hawk declares that they'll leave at once, and oh my god, the way both of them are aura farming in this final shot tells me those zombies are cooked for life. Thus commences the start of the Goopaball Station rescue operation. The perspective shifts and takes us directly underneath the ruined station. Here, a little baby is crying for attention, while the rest of the survivors are all sitting in line waiting for someone to come and save them. The baby's constant crying is a huge problem because it can attract the zombies, and little Diane even smacks the guy next to her, disturbing his peace. The other guy sitting one person away from them is starting to get pissed off and complains about the sound. Thankfully, the old lady vouches in support of little Diane and reminds everyone that they're dealing with an infant who doesn't know any better. Dayun's mother greatly appreciates this gesture, while the little girl suddenly sees something hovering in the sky. Shouting, "Baba!" she starts pointing at the sky. The mother finds herself confused, until suddenly, a shiver runs down the mother's spine at the haunting realization of what's about to happen. Eyeing up to the dark and wretched ceiling, she spots a face in the shadows. The face is straight out of a horror movie, and the blood-eyed creature is so excited to greet us all that it even jump scares the screen. Also, does anyone see the resemblance of the Shinigami Ryuk from Death Note here? To edge our reading experience by the balls, the story cuts to another scene and focuses on the start of the Goopaball Station rescue operation. The first thing we see here are a bunch of zombies wailing and growling about. Their faces are torn apart, their limbs missing, and their dating career ruined. The ugliest one of them all suddenly gets his face blinded by the light. Before he knew it, Bro was tossed 6 feet into the air and obliterated by the vehicle. Inside the car, we get a perspective of the ultimate 2-man squad, Min-seok and the Blue Hawk. The colonel is out here beefing with our boy, stating that his truck is way better than the road roller. Taking his words too seriously, our boy responds in a neutral manner by stating the benefits of both, giving strength to road rollers and mobility advantage to trucks. Hilariously, while they're having this cute little debate, they're steamrolling the zombies as if it were no big deal. Putting up 2 fingers, the colonel explains that there are 2 main variables operating in this mission. Discussing the first, he highlights the collapse sequence. The thing is, the entrance is fully blocked, and the same goes for the subway tracks, meaning transportation is a mess. The second variable is shown on the tablet screen as the colonel points his finger to a unique mutation variant. He explains that this unknown creature or thing is locked with the survivors inside. To clarify, that thing poses an immediate threat to the survivors' well-being, and that they can't afford to waste any time before it kills them all. Minseok is handed the tablet, and honestly, I can't help but notice how bros got veins for days. Anyway, the Colonel talks about their core advantage in this mission, the Goopa Ball Station vents. Not only are they in mint-perfect condition, they're also an easy way to navigate their route. The plan goes as follows. Lego Minseok and his partner will dive and infiltrate via the vents, and slowly make their way to the survivors. That is the basic strategy to ensure this operation's success. Placing emphasis on the survivor's safety, the Colonel reminds him that have to execute this mission flawlessly. But instead of agreeing with the Colonel's opinion, our boy straight up says "nuh-uh" and surprises him. Silence ensues as the Blue Hawk hears his objection. You see, Minseok has determined with 100% accuracy that this mission is going straight to hell, as there's no way they'll succeed. His provocative words just now bruise the Colonel's ego as he attentively listens to his argument. Declaring the name of the operation, our boy highlights that in each and every single one of his previous attempts, the Colonel planned the same strategy with different variants. But the one common denominator among all of them was that they led to the same outcome. Though Minseok agrees that the Colonel always planned the best strategies for the mission, the reality was simple. In every single one of them, 0 people survived. With that, let's go and check on the state of the survivors. The moment they open their eyes, they're hung upside down in a spider's web. Dangling from the ceiling, Dayun's mother questions what the hell happened. Panicking, she looks around to search for her baby and grows frantic to find Dayun. Luckily, her swindling motion just now helps her free from the web, causing her to fall with a heavy thud. Worried for her baby's life, she screams Dayun's name, worrying the rest of the survivors. Surprisingly, none of the others have any clue about Choi Dayun at all. As her last resort, Dayun's mother turns to the same guy who complained about her baby's noise and asks him if he's seen the baby. The poor guy is the only one still hanging on and tells her that he doesn't even know why he's stuck here. The man grows anxious as the others refuse to free him from the web. And then, all of a sudden, the granny from earlier creeps up next to him with a sinister smile. The guy remains speechless, questioning what this lady is doing here. But I'm not sure how he hasn't connected the dots yet, especially when the same lady is glowing demonic red eyes and staring at him in the face. Her face becomes frighteningly monstrous with a gigantic jaw, and well, the girl eats him like a Kit Kat. While this guy is being torn apart live, the spectators watching his grueling death remain speechless and terrified for their own lives. Suddenly, his body flops to the ground at last. But when he gets up again, he's no longer the human he once was. Instead, his torn-off face smiles at the fresh meal standing before his eyes. This is the beginning of the end for these survivors. See what I did there? Let me know in the comments. Screaming the word zombie, the guy with the man bun just in front gets jumped and devoured like the zombie had a personal grudge against him or something. Anyway, this helps the rest of them to flee for their lives. But as they're rushing to escape, they question how a zombie even appeared inside in the first place. Even though they're supposed to be surviving for their own sakes, Dayun's mother is frantically panicking and only cares about her baby's safety. Unfortunately, the survivors meet a dead end at the entrance, when suddenly, Dayun's mother hears a faint voice. She hears Baba, the same one that her daughter voiced earlier. Observing the source of the sound, she stares at the staircase leading to the lower level. One of the guys even tries to stop her from rushing to a dead end. But just like any mother would, she rushes in the face of death just to find her child. The dude's father tries to remind his son to stop wasting time and follow the rest. But suddenly, the poor guy screams for his father's safety from behind. You see, all those survivors that were rushing in the same direction earlier are tackled by the zombies who cut them off. Going back to the girl's mother, she follows traces of her baby's sound and emphasizes that she's coming to save her daughter. The voice continues to lure her in, and she consistently reminds her child that she's coming to save her again. This continues until she reaches the bottom of the staircase and screams Dayun's name. Unfortunately, the story takes an extremely dark turn, because the same baby is no longer the cute little girl she was. Instead, it is transformed into an enormously deformed zombie munching on other people like toys. Dayun's body has grown legs, maintaining a spider-like appearance. The poor child weeps tears in its insane state, screaming Baba as if it were in agony. In response, the mother basically goes crazy. She doesn't even want to fight anymore and stares at her poor child in denial, deeming it all a lie. Calling it a sick dream, she freezes and remains helpless to act. All the while, Dayun grabs her body, brings its own mother to his mouth and chomps her head off. Except, surprise mother trucker, Truck Kun arrives in its blazing glory and nukes the damn station with an explosion so fiery that it grills the baby's flesh, causing it to scream in pain. Thanks to that, Dayun's mother appears unharmed and watches the scene unfold. Let's go back to Minseok's critical analysis of the Colonel's strategy in every iteration. After highlighting that the Colonel's strategy failed to save even a single survivor, Minseok stood there looking like a Greek god and dubbed the mission an impossible task unless they used inhuman methods. Currently, engulfed in searing flames, he stands before the mother, remaining nonchalant even while being grilled alive. By the way, it's been some time, but finally we get a reveal of Minsok's singular special ability. And I kid you not, he is literally classified as a non-human. Talk about being built differently, except it's your only skill. It's time to discuss the mutated monstrosity known as the Skinwalker. These ugly types are a spider-type high-grade build that focus on knocking humans unconscious first, and then stealing their faces. Minsok's body is engulfed in flames as he stares down the ugly calamity with a determined glare. His menacing aura causes the creature to tremble and scream. Diane's Skinwalker suddenly spurts out a high-speed spider web. The projectile is moments away from hitting our boy. The Skinwalkers are notorious for bearing an exoskeleton comparable to an actual spider, which means that heat is the creature's biggest weakness. Snapping the creature's web, our boy pulls the zombie with enough force that it slams its own face on the ground. Blazing ahead with tremendous speed, Zombie Daddy is hell-bent on exploiting the creature's weakness. The moment he reaches close to his face, our boy starts slamming down haymakers like he's in a punch a friend to get $1 million challenge. His explosive blows are unbearable for the creature, as it spurts out blood and screams in agony enduring those heavy hits. The logic of Minsok's strategy is to overwhelm the Skinwalker with flame, rendering it incapable of fighting back. That's actually the main reason our boy is currently infused with the flames and refuses to put them out. Prepping another strong punch, Minsok initiates his final punch, but the moment he's about to finish the monster off, he finds himself being caught off guard after being hit by a stone. Alarmed, he looks around and spots Dayun's helpless mother. Tears filled in her eyes and a face full of pain, she begs the stranger to stop attacking her beloved daughter. It's a tragic sight that this mother is ready to give up her own life just so that no one else can harm her behemoth of a daughter. Anyway, this is really bad because this allows the Skinwalker just the right opportunity to capitalize on Minsok's blind spot. In that moment, the creature's mouth turns into a sucking vortex full of gaping teeth. Yeah, top 10 things you don't want to put your stick in. The pull is so strong that our boy's body is pulled like he's a piece of paper. As for Diane's mother, all she could do was stare at the scene helplessly. The pull is so strong that it drags her body flailing all the ground towards the zombie, while Minsok is doing his best to resist the pull. Putting his hand on the ground, he resists the pressure as much as he possibly can. But the creature before him refuses to shut up and keeps on sucking like the ultimate vacuum machine. The creature is growing closer and closer to Minsok and is moments away from chopping his head right off. The situation looks grim for our boy, who despite his strength can't do anything but lay his body on the ground the best he can to resist the pull. With certain death in sight, the beloved father suddenly receives a flashback of his heartwarming daughter. Dami reminded him back at the cell that she'd never leave his side, even if the world was against him. Choosing to take her advice, he literally lifts his head up as best he can, and then he headbutts the ground with ferocity, shattering the floor. Minsok pulls back up again and repeats the same action, possibly hoping to escape from the floor. Unfortunately, this zombie doesn't seem to be running out of gas anytime soon and keeps on spamming its sucking ability. But all of a sudden, the Skinwalker stops, rendered incapable to do a thing. The creature's jaw shares a kiss with Minsok's beautiful uppercut, knocking the monster's head right off with a clean swing. In response, the Skinwalker helplessly mimics Dayun's little voice, begging for its mother to intervene and help her in a moment of pain. But even as the creature cries, Minsok denies it any kindness and hammers it down with a heavy knee to the face, declaring that everything it says is wrong. With a face fully deformed and incapable of being recognized anymore, the zombie gushes out blood vomit while Minsok maintains his distance. At this point, Diane's Skinwalker looks like a genuinely sad sight to see. But it's a pathetic cry and an act of garnering pity exactly the way Minsok wants the creature to be. Declaring the worst outcome imaginable for the zombie, our boy assures the ugly pile of filth that the only voice coming out of its mouth from now on will be screams. The Skinwalker shrieks as best it can, because our boy is out here ripping its limbs apart left and right. Which leads us to a scene focusing on the rest of the survivors. You see, these guys are currently trying their best to block the zombies from barging their way inside, knowing that the moment this barricade breaks, they're all cooked. The survivors accumulate greater numbers just to resist the incoming raid. At this point, some of them are starting to wonder if what they're dealing with are even zombies to begin with. Unlike the average zombie, these ones are stealthy, and their faces are resoundingly even more terrifying. The boy's dad tells him to stop yapping and concentrate on pushing back, when suddenly he observes something in the distance. Smoke is starting to accumulate inside the room, largely because of Minsok's strategy from earlier to use the flames. This reduces the chances of survival for these guys, and they're genuinely starting to panic, thinking that there's nowhere left to run. Giga Chad Papa over here emphasizes that they should focus on what they can do instead. But suddenly, his son addresses his father with a grim expression. His father turns to question what he's worried about now, but the son poses an interesting observation. highlighting that he doesn't even hear the sound of the zombies moving around anymore. Suddenly, the door is met with a heavy slam, and the survivors are forced back, realizing the grim outcome. The door is moments away from being torn apart, and there's nowhere for them to run anymore. The father expresses his shock and questions the identity of the man before his eyes. The man in question is none other than Min-seok with that Baki build, and he's the guy responsible for demolishing the zombies outside. The state of the Goopa Ball Station rescue operation ensues on ahead. Remember the vents they were planning to use? Min-seok launches it up in the air, while the colonel anticipates his arrival with a grinning smile of satisfaction on his face. By dawn, the 37 survivors were extracted, and the mission resulted in a success. Inspecting the trapped vicinity further, the soldiers come to discover something astonishing. Dayun is alive, and all this time, she was trapped inside one of the webs. The fact that Min-seok was able to save nearly 40 people in a place where the survivors had nowhere to run can be best described as a miracle. Returning back to base, Dami found herself in awe and shock. The same people who were once disregarding him as a threatening zombie now vouched for his support and remembered him by the name of Miracle Man. A shy Min-seok simply responds with a wave of his hand to return their appreciation. Meanwhile, Captain Hieri is out here looking grumpy for his achievements. The colonel personally offers our boy an applause, stating that he passed the mission and earned the trust of the people. Among the bustling crowd, Min-seok finally locks eyes with his daughter, the only person he truly cares about. Smiling at her, he longs for her touch and embraces her fully. Finally, we get a status report of the operation statistics. With a total of 15 deaths and 12 minor casualties, the operation is deemed a success for ensuring the survival of 40 people. And that leads us back to the barracks, where the same sergeant who was on the mission earlier appears to be resting. His condition isn't the best, and he can't seem to get out of bed after enduring that hellish last mission. The door closes shut while the sergeant sleeps soundly. But here's the twist, you see. There's an infected bulge forming to the left side of his neck. We get a bone-chilling reveal as the sergeant's face turns into an uncanny smile, spelling doom for the people of the base camp. This sudden and dark development is unknown to the people who are celebrating in joy just outside after the success of the mission. Dami shares a good time with Dayun's mother, accompanying both of them. Meanwhile, the colonel is straight up being a vibe and bonding like a true homie with Min-seok. Recalling his first impression of the blonde behemoth, the colonel reveals that he always thought Min-seok was special, but he genuinely had no idea he was going to pull off a miracle like this. Offering his full acknowledgement, the Blue Hawk emphasizes that he's going to be relying on Min-seok's sharp insight for the missions ahead. Staring at his beloved drink, he thinks it's a night they should celebrate with a simple gesture of drinking to their delight. But at the same time, if both of them tried their best to get drunk, there would no longer be any more drinks left. Offering a toast, the colonel pays a reminder to the martyrs who left this world too soon, and wishes for the ones left to survive until the end. Min-seok sees his gesture in kind, but something seems to be bothering him. With a concerned face, he turns to the colonel to question why he refused to interrogate him. So far, Min-seok hasn't been interrogated on any of the things that are suspicious about him. For example, his knowledge of the colonel's strategy resulting in a failure in every outcome, or why he's a unique monster different from the zombies. The blonde brute understands that anyone would be dying to discover his secret. In response, the colonel surprises our boy with a simple acknowledgement, confirming that he knows what's going on. Min-seok is confused, but hilariously the colonel comments that he's read enough manhwa to know what's going on here, which is batshit hilarious because he's basically us. Furthermore, he doesn't really give a crap about our boy's story or the intricacies of how he came to be. In the end, the colonel's ultimate objective is to help the people endure and survive this hellish apocalypse. With a childlike smile on his face, he genuinely admits caring only about the well-being of the people. Receiving a heartwarming answer from their leader, Min-seok smiles and admits that the colonel hasn't changed one bit. The Blue Hawk is taken off guard by this sudden comment, but our boy keeps it simple and refuses to elaborate any further than that. Deciding to probe into one of his curiosities, the Blue Hawk suddenly queries Ms. Naok with a question. Recalling that Min-seok's original goal was to get to Daejeon, the colonel wonders why he's still choosing to stay here, especially when he's got a monstrous ability and could have reached his destination by now. Min-seok responds by revealing that he's got some things to take care of in this brigade. His words astonish the colonel. Finally, the caring father's face turns to a sorrowful expression as he recalls all of his previous reincarnations. In every single one of them, the moment he tried to rush the process, the outcome always resulted in a grim disaster. Piecing together what he means, the colonel realizes that Min-seok's actually worried about Dami's safety. The blonde father is taken off guard by the colonel's correct observation. The Blue Hawk drops a banger quote, stating that the closest thing in this world and the most rebellious one for a parent will always be their own child. Switching topics, our boy suddenly looks around to search for Captain Hieri, wondering where the heck she went. Just hearing her name causes a strange spell on the colonel, forcing him to drink even more aggressively than before. Bro even calls for a few drinks more just to get over the mention of his daughter's name. Suddenly Dami comes along to speak to her father, expressing that she's exhausted and wants to crash in early. Assisting her like a true dad, Min-seok gets up to walk her back despite her objections. The figure of the father and daughter duo fades away, leaving the colonel staring at Min-seok's happy expression. It's a rare sight for a monster like Min-seok to appear so comforting all because of his daughter, and in a way the colonel is really proud of him. He's intrigued by Daejeon most of all, and unfortunately admits that he's not going to let our boy escape that easily. After all, it's only thanks to Min-seok's contributions that the colonel can finally envision a future where he can create his ultimate strategy. A private soldier arrives before the colonel, making him happy at the thought of receiving more drinks to enjoy. But only terror ensues as his face turns to one of horror at the sight of a soldier grabbing his neck. The man appears sweating profusely. Fear is imminent in his eyes as he reports a major problem. All the while this is happening, Min-seok and his daughter are walking side by side when suddenly he looks at her and remembers the colonel's words. Just looking at Dami was a reminder of how precious his daughter truly is to him. Addressing her name, he acquires Dami's attention and decides to ask her a question. Despite Min-seok's monstrous abilities, he can't help but wonder if his daughter is deep down truly afraid of what her father has inevitably become. After all, he no longer bears the same image or any resemblance to the man he used to be. And despite that, his beloved daughter never even questioned him once, always accepting him without pushing him aside. Being at his most vulnerable, the worried papa asks to confirm if his daughter is secretly afraid of him. A haunting chill runs down his spine the moment Dami agrees with him, confirming that she's indeed afraid. Min-seok remains utterly speechless, as his daughter confesses that each day, the thought could not leave her mind that one day, her father will end up killing her like all the others. But it has come to a point where pretending to be like this has become unbearable for her. Tears streaming down her eyes and her voice quivering for an answer, she ruthlessly questions where her real father is, instead of the cold-blooded monster before her eyes. But relax, guys. That was just a hallucination that our boy was having just now. Min-seok is snapped out of his most frightening dream when his daughter worriedly checks on him, questioning what's keeping him so bothered in his headspace. Choosing to change topics, Min-seok fearfully refuses to confront her with the same question. Dami coughs in frustration, and it seems like the weather is getting to her. Zombie Dad doesn't want his daughter to get sick and urges her to go inside to stay warm while he'll bring his meds. But that optimism goes out the effing window the moment he senses something nearby. Dami is confused when her father addresses her by her full name this time. Suddenly this man goes ballistic, targeting his daughter with a single attack. Unprepared for his sudden lunge, Dami's expression is one of frightening fear. She screams helplessly as the attack is about to reach her, until it's revealed that Min-seok never even targeted her in the first place. Instead, he's got his fist clasped tightly, as if he had just caught something. Confronting his shenanigans, Dami questions her father's absurd course of action. But Min-seok is far too busy staring down at the crushed, infected mosquito in his palm. That's right, this little fucker was moments away from biting his daughter and spreading the virus. While Min-seok is at a loss for an explanation, suddenly he hears the alarming announcement of Code Black. The base has been infiltrated and requires immediate evacuation. And now, let's go back to the scene of the colonel, who witnesses one of his soldiers succumbing to the viral infection before his eyes. The man standing before him lifts his inhuman face with a shivering, rabid, and psychotic grin, commencing the annihilation of the brigade. Let's circle back to an in-depth version of the conversation shared between the colonel and Min-seok. Eater is the name that he dubbed to a new species of zombies. The first time he saw it, he remembered seeing its ugly belly, but having encountered a spider the other time, the colonel thought that the Eater was actually handsome. Jokes aside, Min-seok told him about the ever-evolving nature of the zombies. In just a short span of time, they've become stronger and much more intimidating to deal with. The current level of threat they posed to threaten humanity's extinction was still far from stopping. And that is the same thought that clings to the colonel's mind when he sees the infected soldier lunging at him with a gaping, wide grin. Reacting quickly, the Blue Hawk successfully grabs him by the neck. He remembers Min-seok specifically highlighting why he chose to stay in this location. You see, the commander over here has a record of holding a 230 kilograms bench press, and the sheer inhuman ability to annihilate an entire battalion on his own. He is a one-man army, the commander of the brigade, Blue Hawk. And as he's smashing the zombie's face with his hands, the commander rips its head clean off its body with a determined expression on his face. Well, now that he's killed a zombie right before the survivors' eyes, they all panic and start to question how a zombie could have arrived from within the brigade to begin with. Knowing what's to come, the commander orders his men to relocate the people back to their shelters for now. Noticing that they're terrified to move, the colonel roars his order, giving them a reality check to act if they want to survive. The soldiers get to work and shove the survivors back to their safe space. Meanwhile, Cha Peng-ho is genuinely pissed off with the current state of the virus, frustrated that his impenetrable fortress has been invaded. Suddenly, his eyes darted towards an infected scar on the zombie's neck. Before he can form any conclusions, however, the commander hears a scream. Turns out that more and more of these smiley-faced uglies are terrorizing the camp. Peng-ho wastes no time and literally smashes one of their faces with a kick, knocking the zombie down. Grabbing the ultimate wooden stick of destruction, he smashes the zombie's head with a brutal killing blow, ending its life. This time, the colonel demands his men to quickly retrieve his gear and immediately recruit Ryu Min-seok to the current location. After hearing the Blue Hawk's order, the soldiers rush to act as fast as they can. Meanwhile, my guy is out here fuming that these zombies are parading in his territory and disrespecting his name. Using the same legendary stick from before, he starts swinging at them like a madman, reminding every single one of the creepy crawlies that this is his domain. He lets all of them know that it's Cha Peng-ho's camp. All the while, he slaughters another zombie with a stick impaling its head. One of them tries to creep up to him from the side and instantly gets stick-slapped with a home run. The colonel is starting to get overwhelmed by their speed and nearly gets bitten from behind, but fortunately he reacts timely and kills it. Peng-ho is unable to catch a break with more and more of these zombies pouncing on him. Filled with rage, he roars at them in his ultimate stand. The scene cuts to the perspective of the survivors who are currently being transported to their shelters. Inside the shelter, Min-seok forces his daughter to wear the construction hat, reminding her not to take it off no matter what happens. He's also covered her face with protective eyewear and a mask, which makes her question why he's so worried about her this time. Dami addresses the elephant in the room by inquiring about the specific type of zombie they're dealing with this time. Declaring the type name Mosky, we learn that it's actually a mosquito-shaped zombie, and I'm not even gonna lie, Mosky is the cutest name ever. Anyway, the risk is simple to understand. One bite is all it is going to take to transform anyone into a zombie, but incubation periods are different for everyone. Well, the truth is, Min-seok is frustrated by the current affair of events as he didn't expect a grim outcome. The problem is, he'd only encountered the Mosky type in only one of his reincarnation cycles, meaning he doesn't have a backlog of experience this time. However, experience doesn't mean shit to a guy who is beaming with rage with a single determined objective to protect his daughter. While he's out here facing his internal dialogue, his frustrated expression worries Dami. Min-seok is far too busy being overwhelmed by a future where his daughter no longer exists. He already knows that the Moskies are going to infiltrate in a swarm, but their main body is actually hiding elsewhere. Speaking of the zombie mosquito, the news reaches all the way to Captain Hyeri, who fails to comprehend what's going on. Her informant explains that the zombie expert has warned everyone to wear covered clothing to protect themselves. The name Min-seok puts Hyeri in a daze, as she begins to recall the sight of her father casually speaking to him. The memory visibly annoys her, but instead of lazing around, she orders her team to cover themselves properly and utilize the same instructions to suppress the zombies. Finally, she inquires information on her father's exact location, to which the soldier responds hesitantly. Suddenly, one of her subordinates shouts at the captain from the wall, informing her of a zombie lurking outside the brigade. Hyeri finds it insulting that they're focusing on a single zombie outside the brigade when there's already chaos unfolding inside. The soldier clarifies that this particular zombie shares an odd appearance, which is enough for Hyeri to focus her attention. Doing his best to describe the zombie's appearance, the guy turns around to inspect again. In the distance, he spots a hairy toad, grinning like an abomination preying on the human's demise. This creature's ghastly mouth opens up in an extraordinarily large column, allowing hundreds of mosquitoes to come flying out of it as if it were an incubation machine for them. Terrified, the soldier informs the captain that they're dealing with a swarm of mosquitoes that emerged from the zombie's mouth. Failing to comprehend the situation in time, Hyeri witnesses a large array of mosquitoes rising over the wall. The poor guy standing closest to them can only scream in horror as the captain orders everyone to get back into the buildings. Suddenly, she notices a figure floating like a fairy in the sky. It's not Superman, it's our beloved zombie expert. At a loss for words, the captain questions what this man is doing. Let's go back a few scenes earlier at the shelter zone. The colonel's men came looking for Min-seok, who openly refused to collaborate out of fear for his daughter's safety. He outright bashed them for being soldiers asking a civilian to fight for their sakes. Losing his composure, the worried father emphasizes that he won't repeat his words again. His position is clear and he won't budge, until his daughter decides to place her construction hat on top of his head. Confused by Dami's sudden actions, Min-seok remains flabbergasted. His daughter emphasizes that she's so weak that she's physically incapable of facing a zombie mosquito. In her heart, she wants the people of this shelter to live, despite being completely helpless herself. Staring at her trembling hand, Min-seok sees his daughter's tearful eyes as she begs her father to act. She wants him to save everyone. That's why he's come all the way here. The guy plants his flamethrower on the ground and aims his enormous pipe at his enemies. Wait, what? Fueled by his daughter's words, Min-seok strengthens his resolve to protect everyone. Thus begins the extermination mission with a singular tactic: burn everything in hellfire. Min-seok pulls the trigger and declares blazing war on the swarm. The mosquitoes are annihilated by the flamethrower's wrath, leaving the ugly toad to witness its creation going down in flames. A satisfying smile remains prominent on Minsuk's face, as he's delighted to make the ugly bastard see its efforts going nowhere. The toad decides to act, and pulls the impossible by gigantically leaping way above the firestorm, pissing off our boy because Minsuk wanted to kill it at once. Deciding to chase after the zombie, the guy lunges over the wall with a towering leap of his own, and safely sticks his landing right inside Hieri's vehicle. Seems like the captain is hot in pursuit of the creature after sensing that it is the cause of the mosquito swarm. She can't ever forgive the bastard for escaping after leaving their brigade in ruins. Sarcastically, Hieri assumes that Minsuk must have some god-tier knowledge already confined in his brain to know how to kill the zombie. Remaining speechless for a moment, our boy agrees with her words. The captain is glad to hear his confirmation, and explains that first, they're gonna finish that thing off, and right after that, she's gonna personally deal with his annoying ass because she's got a dozen questions ready for him. And this time, if he chooses to lie to her face again, she's gonna chew his face out and never let him go. Yup, mommy is pissed over Papa's constant gaslighting. The baddie steps on the gas as they chase down their target as they rush out of the brigade and into the wild forest. In the next scene, we see the same zombie toad arriving back to its cave. This creature is dubbed Slider, a monster classified as an elite-level zombie capable of replicating its spawn and duplicating at will. And yes, you heard the word duplication right, because now the ugly toad is howling as loud as it can to summon all its kind. Its creaking attracts the attention of an ultimate monstrosity with 5 gigantic eyes. Revealing itself like a sleep paralysis demon from your nightmares, the 5-eyed gargantuan ogre revels in excitement. The Slider is a host-type zombie that protects its main body by shielding itself in the shadows, making it an arduous process to track it down. But make no mistake, this thing is absolutely terrifying and knows everything through its minions. While the toad is dancing about, Minsuk pops right out of nowhere, smashing the creature's face into the ground and meeting the grotesque glare of the Slider. Thanks to his ambushing strategy ending in a success, the zombie expert exerts pressure on the creature's neck, causing it to bubble out a final swarm of mosquitoes from its mouth. That swarm concentrates in a singular wave before meeting total incineration at the hands of Hieri's flamethrower. This excellent strategy was discussed just moments before they arrived at the Slider's hideout. Hieri had just learned that the civilians back at the brigade were all safe thanks to the elimination of the swarm. This meant that Dami was going to be okay alongside them. The best thing about the brigade is that even during times of chaos, it bounces back and recovers immediately. That kind of resilience isn't just luck, but the result of impeccable leadership, commanded by the world's finest colonel. This is the main reason Minsuk found it imperative to come to Pungho's base. He thanked the captain for putting him at ease, but in truth, Hieri thinks it's nothing compared to the things he's done by saving them all. The only reason the soldiers managed to follow Minsuk's approach is because he showed them how to exterminate the swarm at first glance. All she could hear from the transmission were praises of the zombie expert who led them to success. Right as she was about to question him again, Mr. Zombie Expert told her to focus on the main goal. They could see the host toad delivering information to the main body. The only reason Minsuk refused to kill the creature immediately is because letting the main body escape would endanger the brigade again. Both of them set their sights on focusing on the mission, and Hieri was tasked with a simple objective of killing anything that comes out, allowing the creature no chance to recover. At the same time, Minsuk emphasized that even if they did all of that, it wouldn't be enough to kill the elite-level zombie. The one greatest ability this eerie zombie possesses is its unending proliferation, meaning it can birth new zombies out of thin air, multiplying to no end. And it can summon their numbers to an amount so extraordinary that it's impossible to even count. Right now, all of them are staring down Minsuk with a creepy expression, aiming to devour their next meal. The host bodies actually function like a network system. They're fundamentally linked to one another, which means even if they kill the main body, as long as its spawn survives, the host will easily regenerate. Hieri couldn't even stomach how they were going to face this zombie. She's genuinely hoping that our boy has some kind of cheat code strategy to deal with this overpowered ability. And to that, Minsuk agreed in silence. And that leads us to the main event. Our boy chucks his arm and slams it into the ground, obliterating the tunnel and forcing an immediate collapse. Outside, the captain is rendered incapable of assisting him because of the blockade. And on the inside, Minsuk is trapped with a wave of spawns and an elite-level zombie. Before heading inside, he told the captain that the only way to stop the proliferation process was to lock it inside and keep demolishing it until none of the creatures remained. And that leads us to the beginning of his ultimate strategy, to kill anything and everything that moves inside the tunnel. Despite being completely outnumbered, Minsuk thinks that the odds are in his favor, and genuinely thinks that by killing these bastards here, they will finally experience what his rage truly feels like. And so he nukes himself into the monster spree targeting the main body. The fight is off-screened as Hieri can only hear faint slamming from the cave. She's truly at a loss for words and fails to understand Minsuk's inhuman actions. This thought of hers makes the captain remember an argument she shared with the colonel, She couldn't stomach how her group was being ordered to fully support Min-seok. The commander outright stated that this guy wasn't just a part of the brigade, but literally humanity's hope for survival. Those words of his appear truer than ever right now, despite Hyeri's frustration. Suddenly, the transmission buzzes as the captain receives a sudden report. Her expression stoops low in shock after hearing the announcement, which is kept ambiguous for now. Morning comes around. The sun-kissed blockade is unflinching, until Min-seok's bloodied arm bursts out of it. The total time he spent demolishing the endless spree is 18 hours, 26 minutes, and 34 seconds. And get ready for the number of zombies he's killed. 7 freaking million. 127,000 were all wiped at the hands of one man. Min-seok's own body is battered, but he casually adjusts his limbs back into place, reforming it back to the way it was. His expression unflinching and unfazed, humanity's strongest weapon completes the Black Code operation with inhuman success. Going back to the scene of the brigade, we come to learn that Hyeri rushed back the moment she heard the announcement. The scene implies that the colonel ended up meeting his demise, or so it seems, because in the very next moment, we see this badass dude munching on some chips like nothing even happened. He bullies his daughter for acting like she saw some kind of ghost or something. Hyeri is pissed the hell off because she clearly heard the report of the colonel being in danger and came back just to assist him. Surprised, the Blue Hawk laughs in her damn face. He's even drawn to tears at her very reaction. You see, just yesterday he saw his daughter's furious reaction because he disregarded every argument she brought to the table. And all of a sudden, the same angry daughter came back worried that her indestructible father might have gotten hurt or something. The whole thing is amusing to the colonel while Hyeri is seething in the background. She also learns that the commander single-handedly destroyed all the zombies in the plaza and didn't even require the use of gear before he killed them all. Thanks to his courageous actions, the zombies were incapable of spreading the virus, rendering the survivors completely safe from harm. Flexing his achievement, the colonel shows that he received tiny bruising too, but nothing major. Annoyed, Hyeri turns around, thinking that she's a fool for rushing back. The colonel reminds her to keep her mouth in check because she's still his inferior. Switching topics, he asks her what's going on, and why exactly did she return alone. After all, there's Min-seok that accompanied her on the mission. Asking the big question, the colonel inquires if they managed to defeat the main body zombie. Remaining silent for a moment, Hyeri highlights the colonel's words from the other day. Min-seok is humanity's hope and response to the apocalypse, and the captain is finally starting to see his perspective the same way. Because the following morning, our boy returns to the base looking like a god. The members welcome him in excitement, while Hyeri acknowledges him at last. The really funny thing is that by noon, the baddie is out here practicing her pickup lines like a normal girl. She wants to catch up with Min-seok with a casual conversation, but doesn't have the patience to deal with all that cute stuff, and eventually erupts in rage. While she's acting flustered and struggling to act normal, the soldiers walking past her observe the scene quietly. They don't know why she's standing there all by herself. Hyeri is so lost in thought that she doesn't even notice them and brainstorms her approach, questioning if it's even worth the effort to catch up with him. Though she doesn't want to humiliate herself, the captain understands that her gesture is the only way to thank Min-seok for his unending contributions. Letting out a rare smile, she confesses that Min-seok is truly responsible for saving everyone. Suddenly she notices him chatting with her father, wondering what the two of them are talking about. Knowing that this is her best shot to catch up, Hyeri walks all the way down, knowing that it's less awkward for her to butt in an existing conversation. But right as she's about to approach them, she hears the colonel expressing his shock at Min-seok's crazy words. The zombie expert emphasizes that he meant everything he said just now, declaring the end of their stay at the brigade. He'll leave with Dami by tonight, and ultimately this is difficult for the commander to accept. The colonel understands that this guy really wants to head to Daejeon, and though he can't stop the man, he asks him to reconsider his choices. After all, in the likelihood that an elite-level zombie appears again, their brigade will be eradicated in one go. Even the indomitable Pung-ho is afraid of that outcome, and begs Min-seok to stay until they're capable of sustaining themselves without him. But despite his pleading, the concerned father fiercely replies with a chilling question. Why should he bother to stay at all? After all, he's not compelled to do anything for the safety of the brigade, or ensuring the survival of the people. His cold words leave Hyeri's eyes widened in shock, because he outright reveals that he has no intention of saving the people. It pisses her off to the point she reveals herself and surprises both of them. Bursting with anger, the captain questions if he truly means those words. Turning to her, Min-seok fearlessly agrees with everything he just said. After all, the one thing that ultimately matters to him is his daughter Dami. For the people of the brigade, he doesn't really care, and he's unafraid of admitting that straight to their faces. Pissed off, the captain turns around and hastens to leave. Here's the heartbreaking reality of it all. Min-seok is intentionally being as cold as he possibly can to destroy Hyeri's perception of him. You see, every time he followed the A-Mart route in his reincarnations, one common pattern emerged. The captain would eventually find herself drawn and attracted to him. But with this, he has ensured that Hyeri thinks of him as nothing more than a monster. His strategy is successful because she is repulsed by him greatly. Furthermore, our boy actually caught her staring at their conversation and used it as an opportunity to say those cold, harsh words, permanently ruining any feelings that would develop between them. After all, it's the only way that Min-seok knows how to keep her safe, even though his admission just now genuinely puts him at ease. As if reading his mind like a book, the colonel warns Min-seok to be careful, because pushing away Hyeri could be dangerous in such a manner as well. He also reminds our boy that even a place like Daejeon won't survive in the hellish world they live in, despite whatever Min-seok is thinking in his head. The reality is, the colonel thinks it would be way better for them to fixate on reforming this brigade, forging it to become the strongest shelter of humanity. His words are tempting, and our boy finds himself drawn to the offer as both of them are practically superhuman and a force to be reckoned with. But ultimately, the cruel reality of time lingers over his head. Min-seok can't afford to waste any more time because in all of his past lives, the elite-level zombie slider appeared 10 years after the apocalypse. But now, it has arrived in a mere 10 days. That's how devastating this timeline is creeping up to be. This means that more and more elite-level zombies will spawn soon, and the moment they do, the brigade will collapse before it even has a chance to become fortified. Oh, and he means straight-up Titanic zombies too. Min-seok circles back to his decision, declaring once more that he will leave the brigade by tonight to head towards Daejeon. By nightfall, the scene switches to a ruined cityscape. Here, a zombie with teeth jutting out of its body wearing numerous eyes is seen. This behemoth seems like another iteration of a slider-level beast, which is sending out its pulsing spawns to kill the approaching humans. Confronting them is our boy with his trusty road roller. Min-seok rides it with confidence in the creature's direction, while the main body shrieks in pain. Let's revisit the final part of his conversation with the colonel again. Though he was ready to leave for Daejeon and frustrated the commander, he did have a counter-proposal for him to hear. And that proposal leads us to the present moment. You see, our boy isn't alone. He's accompanied by heavy-duty tanks and armored vehicles. The tanks unleash their fury to make the job easier and kill the surrounding spawns with ease. Min-seok persuaded the commander's curiosity by insisting that they go and see with their own eyes if the most perfect shelter is truly conceivable. Pungho is having the time of his life smiling at Min-seok, but Zombie Daddy is concerned only for his daughter who is shown using the same gesture. Thus begins the exploration for the Daejeon shelter with Min-seok leading the expedition charge, as the survival of humanity hinges on this mission. It was a storm that day, when suddenly a behemoth monstrosity emerged from the water. Its towering stature and jaw dwarfed the suspension bridge near it. The creature's massive size is a problem to deal with. This is an elite zombie called the Viscous. The enormous slug's main feature is its poisonous ability from every part of its body. Even a slight contact with its body is lethal. The colonel asks our boy for suggestions, knowing that it's the only bridge they have to reach Daejeon. Min-seok highlights the creature's nocturnal habits, which means exposing the zombie to UV light is a weakness. The zombie's skin will harden and its speed will shrink. During that moment, they will target the zombie's head, slicing off the spikes on its head and killing it as a consequence. Since the storm is heavy, they need to wait 2 hours until the sun peeks out. The colonel learns that there isn't any other zombie around the area, so he signals full concentration on armor preparation. Meanwhile, one of the soldiers expresses his doubts, finding Ryu Min-seok as a suspicious figure. There's just no logic that explains his overwhelming knowledge about the zombies. Even if he's an expert, it's as if he's had the experience of outliving the apocalypse before. Even their esteemed commander is buying his knowledge. This guy is shouting insults at the commander, not knowing that the Giga Chad is standing right behind him. The nerd is out here theorizing as the Blue Hawk gets down to the midget's face. Only the guy's screams could be heard after that, as the colonel bullies him for his insults. As for Min-seok's daughter, she's facing a bunch of back problems from sitting so long. Dami's worried for her ass, literally, while her father creeps up on her and scares her. Panicking, she drops the umbrella and shouts at him for scaring her like that. Zombie Papa has brought her some snacks, while Dami reveals that she still can't get used to his new face. Worried, he apologizes to her for no longer looking like her actual father. Hearing this, the daughter stands there quietly. Min-seok snaps into awkwardness and shares that he's changed so much that maybe his daughter no longer sees him as her father anymore. He's out here rambling like an idiot, even insulting himself in his own mind. Deep down, Min-seok has been dying to ask a lingering question, a question that he fears the most. All this time, he doesn't understand why she has accepted him as her father even after the monstrous change he's experienced. Pointing to his eyes, Dami tells her father that his eyes are still the same. It's an odd suggestion because Min-seok's current eyes are red, so he doesn't get what she's talking about. Munching on her snack, she talks about the day her mother left them both. She was just a 7-year-old back then, clutching tightly to her father's hand. Even then, she remembers Min-seok sharing the same generous eyes that always saw her as pitiful and innocent, as if they were always drowning in the guilt of not being enough. Each time she stared into his eyes, it infuriated her. Because in truth, the most pitiful person of all was Minseok, her beloved father himself. Only 2 weeks ago, the gates of hell brought a zombie apocalypse to her doorstep. Back then, a complete stranger entered her house covered in blood. At first, she was terrified, but then she saw those pitiful eyes again. The same gentle eyes that embraced her as if she was the softest and sweetest thing in the world to him. Morning comes around, and zombie Loch Ness's skin over here is hardened like morning wood. The colonel seizes charge and commands fire, unleashing heavy firepower blasting down the creature's flesh. The poisonous slug screams in agony, and doesn't even notice our boy leaping up from the side. Channeling the spirit of Levi Ackerman, Minseok uses his dual axes and annihilates the creature's head, bursting it in half. His godlike strength accomplishment leaves his hater silenced for words. The colonel comes around and understands the soldier's skepticism around the zombie expert, and yet what he performed before them just now is nothing short of a miracle. The towering slug's corpse hits the water with a heavy splash, concluding its death. Standing atop is our boy, who has become the hope of humanity and mankind's greatest weapon to combat the apocalypse. Even the Blue Hawk uproariously claims that it's the only choice they have. The scene reminds Minseok of his 99th run in the apocalypse. Back then, it took him a staggering 378 days, or just over a year, to reach Daejeon. But now that he's living the current life, he and his allies stepped foot to meet Daejeon in the span of a mere 14 days since the outbreak. At long last, after having endured every struggle and hardship, Minseok and his allies had officially reached Daejeon. It's time for us to head back in time to day 3 of the outbreak. Here in Daejeon's neighborhoods, zombies had already begun casting destruction. However, they were quickly exterminated by a competent special force. The commander of the operation celebrated after holding down the defense line successfully. At the same time, they also learned about the scattered forces of the other cities, who failed to contain the apocalypse and were wiped out as a consequence. The one singular city that withstood destruction is Daejeon itself. Surprisingly, these guys quickly lost contact with their forces after the previous order. The commander slammed the desk in frustration, realizing things had gotten worse. He knew that the rate of the zombie virus spreading about is tremendously fast. Facing a disaster of such a scale, they couldn't survive, not when every other city had already toppled before them. One could say that this is the end of South Korea. Yet, the commander finds hope in Daejeon's success. Not only did they manage to survive, but they also stood their defensive ground. This was none other than the Blue Hawk unit. Team Leader Alpha contacted the commander, requesting approval for an expansion operation. The commander stood in hesitation before approving the mission at hand, ordering Alpha to complete the mission fully. The team leader followed the instructions. Jiwoo is the only person they could rely on in these times. If he could withstand the carnage of the apocalypse, then Daejeon would survive. But then, the team leader's eyes widened in fear as he saw something gravitating at the top of the tower. This figure was a unique creature, boasting a sculpted body and a nightmarish face, red glaring eyes staring down at the humans. Let's go back to the present and witness our hero's reaction. The colonel can't fathom what he's looking at. He's stunned that this place is the supposed hope of mankind that the zombie expert clung to. And no, don't worry, it's not a jump scare because Daejeon is actually looking better than ever. The colonel finally understands why our boy couldn't stop yapping about going to Daejeon all this time. It's the best piece of land they could find. Even the soldiers are astonished how the city managed to hold its ground, a sight to behold. Meanwhile, Dami turns to her papa, confirming that his speculation regarding Daejeon was correct. But then she sees Minseok's frustrated, boiling anger. Even though this is supposed to be a celebratory moment, he's pissed and his daughter fails to understand why. Our boy can sense from miles away that something about the place is not right. There's far more going behind the scenes that they're unaware of. First off, it's important to note that every city in Korea collapsed after the start of the apocalypse. Daejeon is included among those cities. It's only afterwards that the city pushed back through their defense lines and reclaimed control of the city. Around the time when our boy reached the city in his 99th life, only a handful of districts had been secured and more work needed to be done. But shockingly, the place is intact and untouched right now. Better yet, it's glistening with even better defenses. All of this couldn't have possibly happened in a mere 14-day period. That's why Minseok has a bad feeling about this. An uncomfortable feeling of dread is pulling him into despair. The same instincts that he had sharpened over the span of 100 lifetimes were screaming at him that something is wrong. Breaking free from his thoughts, Minseok calls for Dami and tells his daughter to stay close to him at all times. It's a strange and sudden order, one that sends a chill down her spine because she can't figure out the source of her papa's fear. The colonel winds up his soldiers to get ready because they can't afford to waste any more time. He's dying to head inside the city. Suddenly, one soldier grabs his attention with a valid concern as he's got something to report. Showing the tablet to the colonel, he tells Pungho about a unique situation. Back when they passed the Sejong area, they moved around a huge plain. At the time, he looked towards the plains and saw something. There were gigantic lines crossing over, as if they were drawn by someone. It's a strange report that baffles the colonel. The massive lines were so big that not even the human eye could understand them. So just for safety, he sent a drone up in the air. The recording that returned is alarming. Bluehawk is baffled by the gigantic drawing and questions what it's doing here. Panicking, Minseok shoves him aside and grabs the tablet in frustration. He rudely takes it away, pissing off the colonel for his sudden interruptance. Our boy takes a good look and becomes even more enraged than ever before at his understanding of the situation. Currently in Daejeon at the Expo Tower, things appear unharmed. A blindfolded man returns to report the arrival of 10 unidentified individuals. They've already sent a recon team to check them out. Lurking in their office, the shrouded leader orders him to bring them back in one piece. Minseok glances at the enormous drawing. It's an illustration of an angelic being, quite possibly a god. At the time, our boy didn't know why his senses were screaming discomfort, but now he finally knew. In the safe haven of Daejeon that he desperately wanted to get to, rested a creature responsible for the onslaught of a great wave. 2 weeks ago, people lost their loved ones and eventually all hope shattered apart. Nothing was coming to save them. The mayor of the city stood at the top of the Expo Tower, a being that announced himself as Baek Do-hyun. The man took off the tower and stuck his superhero landing. His arrival brought the people joy and hope. Do-hyun became their symbol, a blindfolded, mysterious man. This man revealed to them about their current crisis, sharing the dreadful news of the downfall of humankind. At the same time, he cheered the survival of Daejeon and its people, sending the crowd roaring in excitement. Returning to calm, Do-hyun addressed the citizens and highlighted that their specific survival wasn't by chance or coincidence. Instead, he called them special, and not special needs, but special beings who would spark humanity's flames again. Worshipping the mayor as if he were a god, the citizens cried for him, grateful that he was the reason for their survival. The mayor assured them with a final declaration. He would never let the flames of Daejeon be extinguished, and that he would protect the city until the very end. His speech ignited the spirit of the crowd, while Minseok and his group stood in shock. The colonel couldn't understand if this is the Daejeon that Minseok envisioned. The zombie expert denies such a thing, explaining how it's the first time he's ever seen people worshipping someone like this. This man is a mystery of his own, and not even our boy has a single piece of information on him. In his previous life, the most superior force of Daejeon was the Blue Hawk unit, but now they were just standing around like a bunch of nobodies. More important than everyone else, one critical person was missing. This man is the leader of the unit Alpha, otherwise known as the hero, Shin Ji-woo. Lots of things seem to have occurred in a short time span, causing a variable to permanently alter the city's outcome. Baek Do-hyun, this masquerade of a man is another variable that needed to be figured out. The so-called mayor made another announcement to the citizens, expressing the day of celebration. They have come to celebrate the goddess who has sent new friends to their city's defense. Welcoming them aboard, the guy points to Minseok's group and covets them in respect, when suddenly a grenade is tossed right next to his face. The grenade detonates in a heavy smoke explosion. Minseok and the others are coughing, while Colonel Pung-ho urges them to cover their mouths and get down. Our boy checks on his daughter, worried that she might have been affected. Luckily, she's all fine. The smoke grenade is yet another unexpected element that our boy didn't predict, and he's darting his eyes around locating the suspect. Suddenly, Minseok locks eyes with something astonishing. He sees the suited mayor coughing himself to death. Having inhaled the smoke, he sits there helpless to do anything about his demise. Behind him, there's a masked soldier moments away from pulling the trigger on his head. The man is none other than the leader, Ji-woo. Do-hyun understands that there's a gun on his head. Ultimately, the trigger is pulled, and the man is publicly executed before the citizens' eyes. They horrifically witness a murder. Do-hyun's body flops to the ground in cold blood, as the soldier of the Blue Hawk unit quickly detain Ji-woo for his traitorous actions. They can't believe that the one responsible is the team leader himself. Minseok notices this and finds himself stunned to see Ji-woo in such a state. With what little he can do, Ji-woo urges the citizens to break free of the spell and return to their senses. He's begging them to wake up from the illusion, as Baek Do-hyun has been deceiving them from the very beginning. In that instance, the seemingly dead Do-hyun returns back to life. His head has been shot and yet he's posing upright, as if nothing even happened. The people's trust in him is unwavering. They're so insane they think it's divine intervention, and openly call for Ji-woo's execution. Placed in shackles, Ji-woo is fully detained as the people demand his immediate execution. Addressing the people, the insane Do-hyun manipulates their trust, stating that they're responsible for returning him back to life after an encounter with death. He dubs them the citizens of the City of Miracles, feeding them the breadcrumbs of loyalty. The citizens truly believe that the goddess of Gyeryong is helping their cause, as Do-hyun openly declares a new chapter in history, the unquenchable light. He and the deluded citizens erupt in mad celebration while our heroes watch the scene unfold. Minseok slowly realizing the City of Miracles is a city of lies.